Hi, my name is Fatima Ajouj, and in today's speech I'm going to be talking about the existence of extraterrestrial life. Firstly, I would like you to imagine a situation in which you were offered a seat at a prestigious institution known as SETI Institute, known as a search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It is generally an institution in which they function to find extraterrestrial life or aliens on planets other than Earth, technically. And so Thomas Pearson describes it in a more sophisticated and specific way as a mission to explore, understand, and explain the origins, nature, and prevalence of life in the universe. With this in mind, I would like to convince that aliens do in fact exist on other planets. And I'm going to use the Miller-Urey experiment, actual discoveries of aliens, as well as a Drake equation to validate my point. Firstly is the Miller-Urey experiment. And technically, Miller was an influential scientist who described the two basic requirements of life to be water and macromolecules, which are carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. And further described by Eric Parker, who evaluated Miller-Urey's experiment, he said that an energized spark discharge of electrodes, which is known as lightning in this case, was needed in order to randomly configure the molecules in order to form macromolecules. And so we know this because planets contain similar atmospheric gases to that of Earth, certain ones such as ammonia, methane, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. So we could therefore conclude that this could also happen on planets other than Earth. So I would like to describe in more detail what this Miller-Urey experiment actually is. And so we have a spark of lightning that flows into the system or the apparatus, and we have water also included in the apparatus, which ends up getting condensed after the spark discharge of electrons. And after a week or so, these gases will end up configuring into and forming technically macromolecules, or the compounds I described before, and known as organic compounds in this case. And this could be used in a larger system like planetary systems. And so there are also alien discoveries that I would like to mention, two being Mars is the first one, and the second one is a more domestic incident known as the Roswell incident in New Mexico. The Mars incident is an experiment, and so it included the methanogens, which are organisms that emit or release methane into the atmosphere. And they were discovered in this experiment. They're able to survive on Mars's low pressure and atmosphere. So they were able to withstand Mars' atmospheric conditions, which is pretty impressive. And this study was conducted by the Oregon Collection of Methanogens in Portland State University, Oregon. And these microbes are able to survive an exposure at pressures down to 6 microbars. And so that shows us that aliens could in fact exist, even though they might not be intelligent forms. The other incident, the Roswell incident in New Mexico, which took place in July 1947, was an incident in which a UFO or a flying disc was spotted in the sky, and they technically thought that it was a UFO, and it ended up crashing, and it was a UFO when the Roswell Army Airfield inspected it, described by William Moore in his essay on the verification of the Roswell incident. And the remains of the crashed UFO are now at the CIA headquarters in Virginia, and they're protected there. And not really much is said about the Roswell incident, but we do have the newspaper as evidence. And with this in mind, with the fact that we do have incidents of aliens, we do need to calculate a probability in which aliens do exist elsewhere on other planets other than Earth. And so we have an equation set up called the Drake equation, which is N, which is a probability equals R times Fs times P, Fp times Ne times F1 times Fi times Fc times L. It's a pretty complicated equation, but if you think about it, it's very simple when you have the variables defined for you. R is the average rate of star formation. Fs is a fraction of good stars that have planetary systems. Ne is the number of planets around those stars within the equashell. F1 is a fraction of those planets where life develops. Fi is a fraction of living species that develop intelligence. Fc is a fraction of intelligent species with communication technology. And L is the lifetime of the communicative phase. And when you evaluate this equation, you get 100% probability. So N equals 10 times 1 times 1 times 1 over 10 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1, which 1 is interpreted as 100%. And so as Claudio describes it, there is actually a 100% probability that aliens do exist in places other than Earth. And with this, as I described the Miller-Urey experiment, the recent alien discoveries, and the Drake equation, we are able to validate the fact that aliens do exist, and I would like to leave you with a thought. Forget that old cliche, the sky's the limit. The only limit that should truly exist is that of the limitless universe. Thank you.